parcel number 0807M-01-016.003 Airway Development LLC. And you say they've withdrawn?
Yes, sir.
Let the record
Yeah.
reflect that they
Can I have
have
a motion?
withdrawn.
A motion to accept the withdrawal.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by no, the motion carries. Next item on the agenda is property valuation services CO, parcel number 0811K-04-031.001 Magnolia Endodontics LLC. Do we have,
They are ready to be entered on the conference call, Dr. McLeod.
they on the conference call now?
Yes, sir, I can unmute them. It's Benjamin and Cody.
Spencerman and Cody.
Benjamin, sir, I'm
Benjamin
sorry.
and Cody. Benjamin Cody. Can you hear us, sir?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. We are prepared to hear your protest. Go ahead.
All right.
I'm sorry?
Okay, I'm ready.
You ready? Go ahead. We're here to hear. Here to
All
hear.
right, thank you so much for the opportunity. So this morning I was able to, and the written down cause, which is what we reported. In speaking with Peggy, Penny, we agreed that the account should be reassessed. So we're going to make an arrangement so that she can do an on-site visit so that she can reassess the account. So really at this point, I think we've come to an agreement to do that.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Paula, I have it written here. I can read. what
Yeah,
it-
there was a misunderstanding with what they reported on their rendition this year. We didn't know till recently that they were purchased, new company in '22. But we did reach out to them through email last week and told them that we would be glad to come back out there on Friday and relist them so that we can make sure that we have their assets correctly. And we never heard back from them until today. But if it's okay with y'all, we can send somebody back out there today or tomorrow and go ahead and relist them to make sure that they are listed properly.
Okay, Mr. Koji, did you hear Ms. Paula Ladner, the tax assessor? Did you hear what she said?
Yes, I did.
Okay, can you meet?
Yes, I did.
Can you make arrangements to meet with them this afternoon?
So this afternoon might not be okay. I probably have to reach out to the clinic to make sure that, to give us enough time. So I think Friday or anytime we can agree upon on with Peggy will be fine. But I have to reach out to the facility first to make sure that someone is available
Okay.
for that walkthrough.
Mr. Koji, I think what we're gonna have to, somebody's gonna have to make arrangements to meet with them tomorrow. They cannot.
Today?
Or today, but I think he said he couldn't today. Today or tomorrow, somebody's gonna have to meet with them. So we need to know.
Okay, let's make, yeah.
We
Okay, let's do tomorrow. That way, at least I have time to reach out to them.
Okay,
Sounds good.
and you have, you have the contact numbers to talk to the assessors then to make the time, arrangement as far as the time.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right.
Do we need a motion to?
Do we need, I think just table this one until we come back. Motion to table.
Motion to table.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Those by no, the motion carries. So you need to get with them to set an arrangement for tomorrow for them to meet and reassess this.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is 10:15. PPIN as attached list T-Mobile South LLC. What is that? Am I missing something? Is that an
Yeah.
Mobile, all right, Mobile South LLC is representatives here for them?
Well, but are they?
What?
They're gonna
They are
be-
gonna be on a Zoom meeting, Dr. Marlin.
They gonna what?
Zoom.
June meeting?
Zoom meeting.
Zoom meeting.
Yes, sir.
But before.
I have to apologize, I'm having a little trouble here. I'm sorry, so if you speak up, it will be helpful.
Not a problem, Dr. Ladner.
That's all right.
Can we just give you an overview before you
Please.
Yes, please.
click on the Zoom?
Yeah.
Sitting there drinking beer.
Becky? Becky's been talking back and forth with these people and been working on their renditions.
Becky,
you come up, or-
come up, please, Becky, where we can hear you about it, please.
All right, this is T-Mobile. They are protesting their values because of disposals. The way they render everything is cellular equipment. We don't know what it is besides cellular equipment. And, trying to find their rendition for disposal list here.
Let me ask you a question, Paula. If you don't know, how do we solve this problem if we don't know? And I know that you've worked on, we've got some folks, but
Yeah.
how do we deal with this presently if we're not sure what they're turning over to you is
Well, we just,
value,
yeah, we
proper
generally just
value?
have to take their word, and
There-
they're not,
There's two issues. One is being able to identify what they're saying is gone, because they just say it's, say, $100,000 of equipment. Then they'll come back and say, well, $97,000, a particular piece worth 97 is now gone. Well, I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's here, there, somewhere else. We can't identify what they're saying, whether it's gone or not. And the other issue is, they may take something out of service, but they won't take it off the pole or off the tower. So it's still up there, it's still taxable.
And when they
Even
say
if
it's
they-
gone, I presume what they're meaning is it's off their inventory.
No,
No.
they're
No?
saying, no, currently not in use.
No, use is still up there. I spoke to Al Goombas over in D'Iberville. I guess I said his name right, Mr. Al.
Thomas.
They actually hired an engineer to use a drone to go up on the water towers.
Sure did.
Because their lease is based on what equipment's up there, the value of the equipment. Well, some companies were saying, oh, we took this down, but we added, we took 7 pieces down, but added 3. Well, there's so much equipment up there, when they hired an engineering company to go up there with the drone, all that old equipment they claimed they took down
It's still there.
is still up there.
Biloxi did.
Biloxi too.
Same thing
mhm.
going on.
Same thing. So we don't have the means to climb up there and see exactly what's up there. I'm not climbing up there. I'm scared of heights, but we take their word for it. But recently with all of this, the equipment's up there, it's just not in service. Or they claim it's not in service.
We asked for a work order of the company that actually did the work to remove the equipment, and they said that we don't have the authority to ask for that, it's broad, and that's why we received a bunch of laws, I think.
Then if we know
They're saying really we can't ask for that because it's too much work for them to give it to us. I think that's their defense.
But it's okay for us to climb up the water tower.
Yeah, go look ourselves.
Y'all have some kind of inventory list you would think that that you can coordinate with, huh?
Well, no, that they
this
just say
is-
equipment, X amount of dollars. They won't specify what it
This is how they
is.
render.
The
They don't give you an
supervisors.
That's how they do it.
That's
right.
And you don't know if any of that.
Everything's just brick
We don't know if it's
together.
Service or
power,
not.
right, we don't know if it's
They're all
power
before the
equipment,
board, the contract's
wires,
just gonna take
cellular
care of it next
equipment,
year, and
antennas,
not the next
what
year.
it is.
Based
It's
off
just,
the ownership.
What is it you
For the
want
most part.
to,
Yeah.
just tell me the numbers you've come up with
Well,
this
see,
year,
this
what's
is
your
the-
recommendation?
I mean,
What is it you want the board to do?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking, what do we do? It's obvious that you're having a
Well-
communications problem with them, they're not working with you on it, so what do we do?
According to this,
If they don't give you the information you need, then we just, you assess it, we'll go from there.
but Mr. Marlin,
Yes.
according to this law, supervisors can require books and papers to be produced, 273597. So why can't we just subpoena their stuff if it doesn't show
Well,
up?
I guess we could do that. I guess the question is apparently they have a problem with the assessment.
Right.
That's where the problem is.
Because they want us to
give you
take
the
these
information,
items
or
off.
that's what you've determined in the best way possible, your evaluation, that's what the taxes are, that's what the assessment is.
And
And if they
behooves
disagree
them to
with
give it
that,
to you.
give you the information that you're asking for so that you can look at what they're saying. Other than that, we'll just, my position is tax them what we are.
Cause it would behoove them to give her the information.
That's my point. I'm not sure that we
So, yeah,
need
we
to
don't-
go
you're right.
and subpoena records.
No, they should be involved.
They should be providing that to you
Yeah,
if their
if we ask for it.
position is that you over-assess
If
it.
we ask for
Right.
it, they should
They
be
need to prove it.
given.
And we've asked them, okay, so you're asking us to remove these pieces of equipment from your inventory. Okay, give us a work order. There had to have been some type of paperwork that y'all had to come up with to give to your field person to go out there and remove something. So give us a copy of it. That's all we've asked them to do.
Speaking of that, I did talk to, I have reached out to different cities here on the coast, counties throughout the state, to see how they are rendering, to see, just to make sure that we are, we're not the, bad person here.
Mhm.
So, City of D'Iberville, Pass Christian, every one of them require a permit to be pulled to either add or take off equipment from a cell phone tower.
Mhm.
We don't see these permits. I don't know if they're being done or not. I've asked several of the cities to, dig and see what they can find.
The cities haven't seen the permits I mean, they haven't.
Right,
Some
some of
of
them
the
have to
cities are
dig,
not
they have
though,
to dig
right?
for it, they have to do a search in their computer, and I haven't heard, I just reached out to them on Friday.
And some of our cities are requiring a permit to add, but they're not requiring a permit to remove.
Right, and/or.
And that may be
yeah.
something that we may wanna look at in the future.
Both. You
To
need
have
both for
to have
purposes of
both.
assessment.
And that way it covers us, it covers them.
Right.
But
Okay.
it's, with the contract going forward, it's probably gonna, the people.
Well, that's gonna help,
That's
because
just gonna
with the
help.
contract
Yeah.
that
It's
you
just-
have
it's
will
this year.
help solve
Yes,
that
for the
problem.
future.
Still, you would think they would cooperate with you if they're telling you they're being over-assessed or, if it were me, and I'd come through and give you whatever records I need,
I wouldn't think.
Right.
that I have to get it reduced. If they're telling you, do it on your own, well, that's gonna be a problem. We'll deal with that. Are they? Oh,
Are you ready, Doctor?
yeah.
AT&T.
Brent Palmer.
Yes, I'm here.
Welcome, Mr. Palmer. We're considering your protest at this time. You're welcome to proceed. The board is here, willing to listen.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time. I was informed that I think the time that is allotted is only 15 minutes, and so I'm not going to speak as to valuation very much today. My coworker and I, with the appeal letter, the protest letter, we did supply a copy of the asset listing. We supplied a copy of the disposal listing that was supplied with the return. I believe we supplied a copy of the return and also an email. And it's mostly about that email that I want to talk with the board today. In that email, a Miss Rebecca Grimmett, if that's how you pronounce it correctly, from the tax assessor's office, was communicating with my coworker Cheryl Falsky, and Cheryl had noticed that the county's costs that it was using were not the same as the costs that were on the personal property tax return. And Cheryl had asked why that was, or had noticed that some of the disposals were not honored by the county And Ms. Grimmett's response was, in order for us to delete any disposed equipment, you will need to provide a completed work order for each disposal. You may submit the completed work orders via email. My coworker was surprised to hear that. We haven't received that response from other counties, and she questioned it, and she said, "What is a work order?" And Ms. Grimmett responded that it was, I mean, I think we all know, but she said a work order is something your company issues to a contractor, technician, or employee at the time that service is done. We do not issue these work orders for your company, and there is no form for this on our website. So the issue, I guess we have, or not I guess, but we have with that is we don't think that there's any statutory authority or other authority for the county to require work orders. The reason being is, and I supplied this in an email last night, but it's okay if that's not permitted to be used, because I just want to draw the board's attention to the Mississippi Code, section 273523, which is taxpayer to furnish list. In that section, it talks about the county's right to require people or corporations or any company to furnish a list. But there's a key word in the second and third line of that section. It says, for a list of his taxable personal property. So a taxpayer only has to report his or her taxable property. They don't have to report property that's no longer in the county, property that was removed, property that was destroyed, property that's not there, property that's exempt, because it's only taxable personal property that has to be reported. The board or the county tax assessor's office, I'm not sure which, had sent out a notice for the hearing and was requiring documents, if you're there in person, to bring the books and records. I'm not sure how books and records for a corporation like T-Mobile would be brought anyway. They're all electronic, but my point in mentioning that is in code section 273597 that was cited by the board to bring those documents. There's a couple of key parts to that, and I want to mention these parts because if this is where the tax assessor is drawing its supposed authority for requiring work orders, then they're incorrect. So it says that the Board of Supervisors may require, excuse me, as you know, any person, firm, corporation, or bank to bring, and then it lists some documents. But if you look at the fourth line, it talks about what the purpose is for these documents, what documents it is. So it's not just any person that has to bring documents. Clearly, there's limitation there. It's not anyone in the world. It's not someone living in China if they don't have property in Harrison County. It's only a taxpayer that has taxable personal property within Harrison County. And the fourth line says, papers as will fully inform them as the true value, and here's the key, of the property to be assessed. So this is talking specifically about the Board of Supervisors, but the tax assessor's office, if that's where they're drawing their authority or supposed authority, as I mentioned, it has to be related. The documents they request has to be related to the property to be assessed. That property to be assessed was reported on T-Mobile's property tax return. But what the assessor's office is trying to require is documentation regarding property that no longer exists. Work orders for something that's no longer on the site. That property is not being assessed. shouldn't be assessed, and so there's no reason why documentation needs to be supplied for it. Now, if the county wants documentation regarding any antennas or any cellular equipment that's currently at the sites to determine the value of that property, that makes perfect sense, and that's within the tax assessor's right. But requiring documentation for something that's no longer in the county and that's not even, so it's therefore not taxable, that's where we have a disagreement. So I guess in short, we'll leave the valuation discussion for another day. But the key issue that we have is the tax assessor's office is refusing to remove disposed costs from its tax roll. Therefore, as a result, I mean, the value is naturally higher. But we don't have time to get into the valuation discussion of factors, lives, and all that. I just wanted to bring up that issue at this time. So I'd be happy to answer or try to answer any questions the board might have for me at this time.
Do y'all have a response to?
I have. That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir, this is Beverly Martin. I think the problem here is, what we need to know is if the property that is no longer in use, have you removed it from the towers? Or is it still there? And if you've removed it, that's why they wanted a copy of the work order, that if you removed it, you need to show us that you removed it.
Yes, so good question. The short answer to your question is yes, it has been removed. And I want to...
It's been removed from the tower.
Correct. No
Okay,
longer...
And do you have proof of that? That's the thing we're asking you for, is to provide some type of proof. Maybe you don't do work orders, but there's got to be some type of proof where you had that removed. And that's the simple solution. Then we can take it off the tax rolls.
Yeah, and unfortunately, when you work with a large corporation, to things in the minutia like this, there's no simple solution. So you're correct.
Y'all don't hire somebody to climb up that tower and remove that property that's no longer in use? How does it get off of there?
We don't have individual work orders for individual pieces of equipment. As tech might go out and do a whole bunch of different things, but the key thing is the statute requires taxable.
No, the key thing is, as far as we're concerned,
on the tax return.
The key thing, as far as we're concerned right now, is that, from our understanding, is that you got a problem with us assessing taxes to equipment that is no longer in use. We are not mind readers. We have to have some proof that that equipment, number one, is not in use, and number two, has been removed. Otherwise, we're gonna assess it. The assessment stays. So it's pretty simple. If you hire somebody to take the equipment off, tell us who it is, and we'll just call and say, okay, did you remove this piece of equipment over here on Washington Avenue, 14354 Washington Avenue? I'm sure he's got a list of where his techs went to remove it, I would think.
I understand your question, and okay. I understand your question, and if I can actually respond, I'd appreciate that. The tax return says the following, under where the signature for the taxpayer goes. Certification. I hereby certify under oath that the above entered information is true and correct to the best of my knowledge. A taxpayer certifies under oath that they are reporting, according to statute 273523, everything that is taxable. So that is exactly what T-Mobile did here. They certified under oath that everything that's on the site, everything that's taxable, has been reported. And again, I draw the attention back to statute 97. The assessor's office or the board has the right to request information regarding property to be assessed. Anything disposed of is not to be assessed.
That's what we're doing, because you're saying that we're assessing.
We kind of have a loggerhead,
Not
correct me if I'm wrong, I'm speaking to our attorney, Mr. Vaughn.
Sure.
Just because you sign an affidavit swearing to a position does not mean that we have to accept that we can ask for verification.
Absolutely, the board has every right to satisfy itself of the facts as they, and
That
the
they
evidence
swear
that
to.
they want, that they are attesting to, and to ask such questions and require such documentation. As I
But within
understand it,
limitation of
sir,
only
may I
taxable
finish
property.
now?
And there's limitations on that. It can't be regarding any person in the world. It's not regarding any property owned by that person. It's only taxable personal property within Harrison County.
But that's the issue, whether that property is still being used or not, sir.
Sir, that's
the issue.
That's right, those assets were, did you not use them the year before? You're only saying they've been decommissioned in this taxable year, correct? That's a yes or no?
Last year, they were disposed. For this year's tax return, correct.
Correct. So the board has every right to examine such information as it deems necessary to make an informed decision as to whether or not that those assets have been disposed of.
Where's that
And-
statutory authority?
Sitting right here.
273597. I'm not getting in an argument with you. I'm just simply saying they're asking for proof that those, and it shouldn't be that hard. If you just disposed of them, you've got something somewhere saying they're
Got to be a
disposed
record
of.
somewhere.
There's a record somewhere. You're far more advanced than most corporations, or you still wouldn't be in business. So you've got records. They're not asking for your top secret or anything like that. They just want to know Tower X disposed of of Y equipment, and that's all they want. Nothing more, nothing less. They don't even want to know how much you paid them.
We have
So-
70,000 cell sites across the country. We don't have this level of detail that you're looking for. So not only do I disagree that the board has the statutory authority, but it's non-existent. We don't have
Very
it.
good, very good. Is there anything else you'd like to add in conclusion?
No, I've presented the points on that I'd like to present, so.
Okay. Nothing else? Okay.
Nothing at this time, no.
Thank you, sir. All right, Chair will entertain a motion to, I guess, what would be, deny the appeal
To deny the
and
appeal.
approve the assessed valuation as submitted by the tax
So
assessor.
moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second,
That's all right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by no, motion carries unanimously.
That's amazing.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
It's amazing.
You can't tell,
No, you got
70,000 hours, they don't.
you can't tell me that a company doesn't have some little amount. They don't
They
take
don't
that
have
stuff down and throw it away without some record.
Yeah.
Still up there. We have
But
these
still, they
companies
know where they are.
Absolutely.
Tell us
You ain't got that many.
Sure.
what it is in this county. And
Man,
they
that's
have
70,000 in
thousands.
Harrison County.
That's
They know
right.
where they are.
That's right. Okay, moving along, let's see, we're at,
Jeez.
that was Mobile South, right?
So
Yeah,
number
AT&T too.
Which one? Oh,
He's taking.
PP,
Number four.
PPI, the next, consideration is PPINS 5209 8918 9269 9691 9660 10313 11110 12268 15124 27090 Cable One. All right, what is those representatives here?
Waiting for approval for the Zoom meeting, Dr.
That's all.
Ladner.
I mean, yes, they
Got
know
that
where
one.
the
Do
cable
we need
line
a,
is.
All right,
They know where the cable line is.
this is Cable One.
Is it-
I wish we'd have a little opportunity to find
I know.
out more about it.
Can we hear?
They were in my folder. I haven't got any of
Is
this.
there any heads up on this
One
one?
second, we're going to get Missy.
she's on.
She's been
You
talking
what?
to Cable One. I'm sorry, I should have had her in here.
She's gonna go. Cause he
Um,
got The last one was 370.
Huh?
The last one was 370.
Yeah.
Well, you can.
What's the issue with this one?
She went to get you.
Oh, you're going to get her.
Missy Parker has been, communicating with them back and forth, and I just want her to, I'm sorry, I should have already had her in here.
May I, bring this up for Supervisor Rocco while we've got a second?
Yeah.
It's, Shrimp Bowl Kickoff Classic sponsorship. She would like to give $1,000 for advertising county resources for their Shrimp Bowl. So I'll make a motion that we allow her to do
Second.
that.
Motion second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No.
Who's it to?
Biloxi High School.
So below.
This is all she's.
Advertising county resources?
Yeah.
Advertising.
Just don't give Robert anyway.
So we had pretty interesting, he's not on there.
No, sir.
Pretty interesting one, would have enjoyed being here. Trish did.
Yeah, you should have looked.
I missed one?
I got-
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I know
I
you.
wasn't happy.
You would have fun with him.
Yeah, you would have. You missed
Mr.
out.
Mr.
T-Mobile.
T-Mobile.
He,
Okay.
he was reading off the law.
Okay, Missy's here now,
Okay.
she's gonna give us an overview of what.
Kind of give us an
issue was.
overview in reference to the Cable One protest.
Yes, Cable One, they were trying to exempt equipment that in the statute was not to be exempt. In prior years, computer equipment, they were trying to exempt it this year
As broadband.
as broadband equipment.
So
And
the
according
same-
to the statute, which the statute is not very precise, it says, limited to, and it lists computer equipment, certain computer equipment. So, they had amended their return because of this statute, and I had talked with them and told them, we do not exempt computer equipment, even though they say it's used for broadband to, communicate. They had sent a second amended return with no asset listing, just values with a cost. And I told them, I said, that's not gonna work. That return, when I looked at it, I just threw it aside.
So basically what you're saying is that they have computers which in and of themselves, under the statute, is not exempt.
Well, the statute it just says limited to, or something in the, what does it say? What was it?
And/or related equipment.
Do other companies
Tim?
pay
Yeah,
taxes
just-
on computers?
Yeah, and related equipment, but there was another one somewhere where it said, but not limited to, certain computer equipment, same computer equipment, this one's a little bit.
Do you have the code number?
Yeah.
What's the code
Code
number,
section.
Missy?
What's the code section?
5787-7.
And my question, Ms. Paula, do other companies pay on their personal property, pay taxes on computers
Yes,
and office
yes.
equipment? That's what I thought.
And they're just saying that
But
those
the
computers are
broadband,
used for
the
broadband,
broadband
so,
equipment has certain
Yeah, I
years that
missed
they're
that part
exempt.
on Terry Mason. Tim, you're gonna have to.
Anything that they can tie to broadband, they think that they can exempt it.
They're,
The
yeah.
previous
they're
So
gentleman,
they need a
his
computer to
standpoint
operate
was
the broadband, so they're
that-
saying, well, I need one to
Yeah.
operate.
they determine
QuickBooks.
what's exempt and what's not
Who?
the assessor. The company determines whether, that was his standpoint.
Oh, that's his
If it-
position, that he
if it's
determines what
exempt,
to use for.
But if it's exempt property, they shouldn't even tell us about it anyway, because it's not taxable. Well, I think the assessor determines whether or not
They can
it's
talk about
taxable.
Oh,
T-Mobile.
I would think so.
I don't think you
I
have
mean,
to know it in order to determine.
If we wanted to get down to it, the statute says, accounts the effect of any signal degradate, whatever that is.
Let
That
Tim
is
read
not
it.
less than 384 kilobytes bits per second. I mean, if we
So
wanna
most
get down
likely
to
that
the
computer
nitty-gritty,
doesn't meet that
then,
criteria.
I mean, we
I
can ask
don't know,
them.
talking
is it-
technical stuff.
Let's see
I
what our
have no
attorney
earthly idea,
said.
but I would assume the argument would be that that computer does not meet that broadband criteria that's described in that statute.
It sounds like they're saying that they use the computer to
As related
operate
equipment.
the broadband.
As related
Like we
equipment.
said, we use a computer to turn the lights on, or turn them off, or, you know, so
Well,
to me, that's,
Yeah, like
You can use
servers
a
and
computer.
routers
Yeah.
and stuff like
So
that is
you're
what they're
not going-
trying to say is.
but we
It's-
tax them
it's
for
not.
everybody else. Everybody else pays taxes on their computer that operates their
Right.
lights and
Right.
generators or whatever.
Can't get it up.
I can't get the phone to work. I mean, I'll pull up the statutes, let me see if I can get it.
Give him a few minutes.
It's just that law with broadband is so vague.
It's too
So we
bad.
need to tighten it up.
Yes.
And they're trying, we've got people representing MACA that are really pushing for the legislators to make an amendment.
We
to
couldn't
that.
handle that as just a county ordinance.
No, those would be state laws.
We do need to add the permits.
I like the permit
We do
idea.
need
Permit.
When they,
Needs to be
when
added.
they take it
And
down,
we could, up and down.
that we definitely need to do.
Yes,
And you think that contractor will be able to eliminate this problem with them from now on?
Yeah, man, and how much we gonna charge for
But
it?
that's, don't give me that company can't provide you
Sure.
some sort of, we
well,
took
it's
such
just like
and
Reverend
such
said, you
down.
had to hire a
You got-
contractor to do that.
Sure.
We have contractors around on the coast
And they gonna list
that
exactly
do just
what
that.
the garbage man right over there at HCUA knows exactly what houses he's going to pick up that garbage. Right?
Right?
Marlon, don't they know where they going?
Yeah, oh, yes.
So, right, no matter who
And then the
contracts it
problem with
out.
that is, like in Tiapco, they hire the engineer
That's
because
right.
the contractor was saying he was taking down 7 or 8 pieces of equipment and adding 3. He was only adding 3, never taking down this old
Right,
equipment.
and see, Biloxi just recently, if I'm not mistaken, went to paint their towers.
Mhm.
You know, the big
And
water
couldn't walk
tower.
around it.
And
Because
couldn't
there
walk
was
around,
something
but they
wrong.
found out that half the stuff up there was no longer working and that sort of thing, so I think they ended up, as they were painting it, taking it off.
He was
But
talking.
they're
I
in.
wondered why they had stuff in the yard over there.
That's why they put a
paint the
cow, what they
yeah.
call it,
He-
a temporary
he-
tower and all, but that's what it is.
He made the statement that he was gonna talk about this issue about the, values of the property and all that. But then he was gonna talk about the assessment later,
That's what he said.
way too late.
Yeah.
When is, yeah,
Maybe
when is
talking about
he
next
intend
year.
to do that?
Next week.
Next year.
He's gonna need it next year.
Y'all call me,
Yeah.
I'd like to come back for that, that'd be fun.
Okay, we ready? Oh, Tim's still looking at that.
I'm looking at
Tim's
it,
still
so
looking.
why don't you move on to the next one,
Okay.
come back to it. I'll read it. This is, who's requesting this exemption?
Cable.
Table one.
Kyle Nelson.
So we could go to number 5, is that what he's
I
saying?
think we need to go, we can move on to number 5.
AT&T.
TPN as per attached list AT&T Services Incorporated.
I don't know. He brought your
No, they're
papers.
here.
I brought some papers.
All right, man.
So do I stand right here?
Sure.
Just let me know when you're ready to start.
All right.
Zoom call as well.
I have 9 copies, but a couple of the binders are pretty tight.
That's
So,
okay.
so who all needs a copy?
I guess
I know
we all
everybody
need a
wants-
copy, but we're not gonna be able to read it all right now.
No, that's a great point, and I plan to address that point
Yeah, just tell us
very quickly, yes, sir.
what's in it. And if you don't mind, sir, identifying
I
yourself.
don't mind at all, sir. This is where we might start getting a little tight on you. You want me to- You can take a look at it. I will,
Thank you, ma'am. Here. All of these. Okay.
I can get you more as well, so. Okay, so this is Baker Donaldson and Billy Gingrey.
Excuse me. Do some homework.
My name is Richard Sullivan. I'm a director of tax with AT&T out of Atlanta. And we have some similar issues that have already been discussed. And I'm not going to wade into the one that the gentleman from T-Mobile raised about the retirements issue. We have the same problem. I'll ask some folks in the county afterwards if there are some things we might be able to do to address that going forward. We're not going to raise it today, okay? It is one of our issues. And let me start out by saying, Rebecca, it's nice to meet you in person.
Nice to meet you.
And Ms. Ladner, okay. We understand that the county has a job to do. And I think some of the folks I've spoken to understand that we have a job to do. There may be things that we disagree on, okay? But we try to be amicable, and we try to, part of my job is to find out where the problems and obstacles are.
Right.
And if there's ways that we can work around or address those. So I'm here to say, I think I mentioned to you on the phone the other day, anytime you have any questions, please reach out, and I'll try to do the same, and maybe we can work together. One of the things that comes to mind, and I'll show you a couple of examples in this information in a minute, but when you do have large companies with 70,000 cell sites and millions of asset records, it sometimes is difficult to track individual assets. But there may be things we can do, such as go out, go visit a couple of sites, open the cabinets up, open the shelters up, let the assessor's office see what's there, right? So that at least they can try to put some visual inspection with what they're seeing on the property tax renditions. So I'll speak with the assessor's office about that in the future, and if there's things that we can do to maybe remove some of the vagueness or some of the gray areas. I can't speak for the other companies, but I'll tell you that AT&T, we're happy to try to accommodate those requests.
I think we do that ordinance, that'll take care of it.
So, the biggest issue in the binder, you'll see there's several documents there. Just inside the front flap on the left, there's a document called 2023 AT&T Property Tax Protest, Harrison County, Mississippi. And it's got the appeal issues listed there. They reference the 5 attachments, or the 5 exhibits that are in the binder. As I mentioned earlier, we do have the same issue related to the retirements not being recognized, but we're going to table that for this discussion today, okay? We'll worry about trying to get that resolved at some point in the future. There's an issue.
If I may, number
Yes, sir.
A seems to, am I missing? A seems to be the same problem we just discussed prior to you coming up in reference to broadband exemption specifically for AT&T mobility antenna equipment.
That's correct, sir.
So is that similar to what we were talking about with the computers?
It is and it isn't. If I might, real quickly, Exhibit 1 is simply the protest, the objections were filed. Exhibit 2 is the listing of the cell site equipment that's in Harrison County. Okay, we provide that information, not in this format. This was put together just for this hearing, but we have 90 accounts, I think, in Harrison County. And each account, we provide a list of assets of taxable property.
Or you know where your stuff is.
Well, we try our best to show where it is. Exhibit 3, we have what we refer to as the qualifying broadband equipment. We also provide this list of information to the assessor.
So, sir, can I ask?
Yes, sir.
Exhibit 3 would be what you're seeking exemption for?
We are getting exemption on a significant portion of these assets. At least that's what my discussion with Ms. Bremen indicated.
Broadband.
The broadband, we were getting it.
RF, the radio frequency.
Yeah, with the exception of the antenna assets.
Okay.
That's
I'm just trying to figure out what exhibit 3 is. That the ones that?
Exhibit 3 has all of the broadband assets in it, the RF equipment which we're getting, and the antenna asset which the county has denied.
But see, I'm seeing on your broadband exemption.
Well, that's our classification. We classify it as broadband exempt, and I would like to.
Oh, okay.
But that's the issue that we're talking about now, between what you're classifying as broadband and the assessor is having an issue with.
Is correct, sir.
I'm trying to figure out how much that is in this exhibit. You don't divide it out apparently.
It's not in here specifically outlined. No, sir, it's not.
Do we have an amount, how much you're seeking exemption on that you're not getting currently? That's what
I
think.
do not have that with me today. I do
Oh,
not.
do we know that? What's that?
No.
And again, I think part of the problem is there's some blended issues there with retirements not having been recognized by the county, and then you've got this issue in the antennas. And let me provide a little bit of background about why the antenna issue has come up this year. First, before I say that, AT&T always files this list of broadband exempt equipment. The point was made earlier that the companies are just deciding what's exempt and what's not. And we understand that the assessor's office and the county supervisors have a say in that. So if we need to do a better job communicating and making sure that everybody understands what's being claimed, again, we're more than willing to do that. And that's part of what this process here is today, at least to start that process. But we do file that exempt equipment list. We've been told from other counties and other taxpayers and volunteers that they don't always provide the list of what they think is exempt. They just send a listing of what they think is their taxable property. AT&T has always felt like, at a minimum, we need to also provide that list of what we feel like is exempt for a couple reasons. Number one, it's a 10-year exemption. And so the assessor, we feel like, has a right to know what's tracking through that 10 years while that property is under an exemption, okay? But the other part is exactly this. There shouldn't be a lot of mystery about what the taxpayer is claiming for exemption. It ought to be an open communication between the taxpayer and the county so that an honest discussion can be had about the exemption itself, okay? So I do want to make those points. And real quick, because I know we're kind of pressed for time, I want to focus on Exhibit 4, which is in the orange tab. And as I'm getting ready to go over some of this, AT&T had never claimed antenna as a broadband exempt asset until this year.
Why?
That's a great question. If you think back to when this broadband exemption was passed by the legislature, wireless communications was not providing broadband. Your phones back in the early 2000s were old flip phones that you used to make voice calls with. Maybe some small texting, which qualifies as data, but it was a very small piece. Well, when Apple introduced the iPhone in 2007, and since then, more and more activity on cell phones and wireless devices is being done to access the internet. People are streaming music, watching videos, shopping, doing lots of things related to accessing the internet on their smartphones. It used to be that the antenna was just a dumb piece of equipment up at the top of the tower, okay? As the industry has changed, as phones have gotten more sophisticated technology-wise, the antennas have had to keep up as well. And so we were probably a little late in making that acknowledgement, but what brought it to the surface was a county up in North Mississippi had hired a company last year to come in and not only give their own opinion of what the taxpayer should be reporting, but also recommended to the county to deny all the broadband exemption. And so our concern was, excuse me, our concern was that if this litigation proceeds, if they prevail, then it won't be long before the other 81 counties in Mississippi are saying, well, if they're not giving the broadband for wireless up there, then why are we? So we took a look and we decided, well, if some of the counties are going to start being more aggressive on this issue, then as a company, we needed to do the same thing.
May I ask what county that is?
It's Jasper County, sir.
There's a pending case in Jasper
Yes, sir.
County?
There is litigation that's pending for 2022, and there is a 2023 property objection that's just been filed as well.
Jasper County, that's, I assume, not resolved at this point.
That's correct, yes, sir. We have asked a motion for summary judgment, because again, they've denied the broadband exemption on all of AT&T Mobility's assets in their county. And we feel like it's a matter of statute, a statewide statute, that some of it certainly qualifies for the exemption. So we've asked for a motion for summary judgment. There's a meeting that's supposed to be held, I believe, in early October on that issue in Jasper County. So,
And is that AT&T is the main appellate in that case?
yes, sir, that's correct. There are other companies that are appealing in the county as well. AT&T is one of the.
But the summary judgment's in the AT&T case.
I think all of the companies that are appealing have filed motions.
Consolidated.
Yeah, we don't know if they've been consolidated, but the attorneys do talk to each other, and I believe that the determination has been made that all of the companies have filed a motion for summary judgment in those cases. Do you have questions, sir?
Since basically, we're dealing with the antenna as far as it being broadband.
Yes, today.
As a broadband.
Yes. It's today's appeal.
Tell me if you can, and I'm not a tech person, but I would like to know how does this specific antenna that you're asking to be included as a broadband exemption, how does it differ from any other antenna on a tower? So what makes it, I guess what I'm asking you, what makes this particular antenna that you're saying is broadband exempt, what makes it different than any other antenna?
What, you mean like a radio antenna?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
Okay.
You're saying that the antenna that you're referencing is, you're requesting an exemption because it's under the broadband. It's the
Yes.
broadband exemption. How does that make it, how does it become any different than an antenna that's not? I'm missing
No.
something technically, but I'm trying to determine what makes that antenna needed for broadband as opposed to any other antenna. You said that, like the old phones, it didn't need that.
That's a
Right,
fair
needed
question.
it.
That's a fair question, and I will do my best to attempt to address that question. First of all, there's actually two antennas. There's one in the cell phone, okay, which has to receive and send signals, and then there's one on the tower, which also has receiving and sending capability, okay? So in order for whether it's a call, whether it's accessing the internet, if I'm trying to do that from this phone, then there's an antenna in here that has to send a signal to the antenna at the nearest tower, okay? We don't pay taxes on these phones. The home individuals own their own phones, and therefore the antenna that's in this phone is not subject to this issue today. But, for people to understand from a technical perspective, there's actually an antenna here and there's one up on the tower, okay? So if you look at the very first page in Exhibit 4, it tries to explain how wireless works. And if you look up in the second paragraph there, it says how wireless works. A cell phone receives and sends radio waves, which we just said. The radio waves traveling through spectrum, which is sort of invisible radio wave conductor, if you will, that allows the signal to go through the airwaves to be received by the antenna at the tower. They're used to transmit voice calls and data, which is what broadband is, to your mobile device. And these radio waves are received and transmitted via antennas. And then there's several images here on this first page that sort of explain, they give you different images of people walking by cell site locations or small cell locations and where their signals are being received.
Let me ask you, sir, if I may. So you're saying that the antenna that you use today because of these is different than the ones they used 15 years ago in Blackberry?
That's the point. That's exactly what we're asking. What
Is it
about
different?
that antenna that's in question. What is the difference in that antenna or any other antenna that, I mean, just because you
is it
happen to be
different?
using that antenna for that
Right.
broadband that you described doesn't necessarily mean that it's specifically
different.
designed for broadband. There's something, what about that antenna that makes it specifically needed to transmit the broadband information?
All right, again, great follow-up question. So if I can flip over to page 2 just for a second.
Where are you?
On page 2 of exhibit 4.
Page
Okay, this is a simplified cell site location. We've already had some discussion around this topic, but for a little bit more context, if you look at the orange sort of elongated rectangles up at the top of the tower, as you drive down the road, you can see the antenna panels on the towers, right? They're pretty easy to recognize. And this diagram right here kind of, I hope, gets to the part of the answer to your question, Mr. Ladner, and that is that the antenna receives a signal, and then there's connections down to the equipment that's at the base station. That's where a lot of the equipment that is getting the broadband now from the county is located, is down at the base of the tower.
And that's already exempt.
Already exempt, okay?
Yeah,
At least as far as we know, that's already exempt, yeah. So the question, the answer to your question, the short answer to your question is, these antennas, their sole purpose is to receive and transmit broadband signals. They don't receive radio station signals that are broadcast out, so if you're driving down the road listening to the radio, that's available in your car. They don't receive or send television broadcasting signals. Now,
Could they?
no, sir,
Could that antenna?
it's not designed to do that.
It
And
cannot do
if you
it.
flip over to page 3, this is what's inside of one of those panels that's hanging up on a cell site. And so you see all of those little sort of X or cross pieces of equipment there that are in this. There has to be a send and receive, okay? And each one of those is tied to a specific band of spectrum that receives broadband signals. That's all this piece of equipment does.
So this is only to be used for broadband,
That's correct.
not your cell.
The antenna itself is just an antenna. He's speaking about the equipment
The pieces
mounted on
on
there.
But this is what you're
That's what's
asking.
confusing.
But the point being that if and there is a minimum threshold, which was mentioned earlier, which is 384 kilobytes per second in the statute, okay? There's been some discussion about that as outdated speeds, okay? And I would not disagree with that. That has existed in that statute since the early 2000s. So, or there may be some things that might need to be updated in that statute. There probably are, okay? And that's an example of one of them. But in order to achieve those speeds for the equipment at the bottom of the tower, if it doesn't send the signal from the antenna and send that signal down to the equipment at the bottom of the tower, then it's not going to be able to function and serve its purpose, which is providing broadband service. So that's the reason why, I think part of the objection was it might have been that the tower or the antenna, it does also serve voice calls, okay? It does, all right? But it's a very small piece of what the antenna does now is voice. Most of the traffic on the antennas and on the equipment at the cell sites today is providing broadband or internet
Now,
service.
is the reverse of that true? 15 years ago, the antenna served only voice and no broadband, and now it's predominantly broadband.
That's
and
correct.
very small
That's
voice.
correct. And the antennas have had
Is it
to,
the same antenna?
it is not. The antennas have had to be upgraded over time
That's
to
what I'm
become
asking.
more capable of providing the service. And part of it is the demand from our customers, right? They're the ones who stream music and videos. They're the ones who play games on their phones. In order for them to get quality wireless service that they can use for broadband purposes, they have to have newer phones. That's why Apple keeps coming out with new phones every year. It's why, we're kind of in the middle. We're the pipe that carries the demand from the customer, and the content from whoever they're, getting that content from, you know, we're in the middle. We're like the hamster on the hamster wheel, right? We're constantly trying to keep up with what our customers are demanding and what the technology of the phones and the equipment are. And it has required us to update all the equipment, not just the antennas, but the antennas have had to be updated over time.
You don't have any idea what kind of money you're talking about?
I do not. I know that, I mean, we could probably figure it out.
One account here is probably about 130,000 true value.
One account, that would be one antenna,
One account, well, it's one.
one location.
One location, yes.
One location.
How many locations do they have?
103, I believe.
Give you a good bit of money.
A million.
It's significant. It's
Some
significant enough
antennas
to
maybe,
bring this issue.
some locations are, you know,
Older.
60,000.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
But that's still-
estimate.
I mean, for us, across
Talking
the
a million
board,
dollars
talking $10 million.
over, yeah.
So I'm more curious about Jasper County, and Baker Donalds is on the phone, I'm sure they're in that case. Jasper County disallowed all the broadband exemption, is what you're saying. That's what I thought you said.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
That's on appeal.
Yes, sir.
And so what's the basis for Jasper County disallowing the entire exemption?
That's the reason why we've asked for summary judgment, because we don't believe that there is any basis for them to have done
And I
what
tried to pull it up on my phone, my broadband AT&'s
It's
not
not
working.
working.
Take that,
That's not true, I
Take
couldn't
that
remember my
antenna
password,
off.
I'm sorry.
Well played.
It was me, not you.
Well played. I was getting ready to, you know.
It was, as my computer,
Apologize.
as our IT guy says at the office, it was an operator interface error. Me.
I think what we have to decide, correct me if I'm wrong, the statute recognizes that if it is related to broadband, and necessary for broadband, that the legislature provides a tax exemption for that. And bottom line is, somehow or another, we have to decide whether that is actually critical broadband equipment related to broadband.
That's
And
the
if
issue.
it is, sometimes you gotta bite the amount, but rightfully they're applying for the legal statutory exemption. And I don't have the technical capability of determining that.
I was gonna ask who would know that. I would.
We're at a point where it seems to me like we need to have an agent or technical expertise that represent us to make these determinations.
Well, first thing I'd recommend is let me look at the Jasper County litigation to see what that is.
Maybe they know it came out.
Well, it sounds like they disallowed the entire thing, which I don't understand, but they may have a logical reason for doing that. I mean, it appears to me, and I'm an operator interface error looking and walking, so, that these antennas in the past were not broadband, but they have now progressed to primarily broadband now. So, we just need to look at it.
Maybe they were in a position sort of like we are in this specific instance. Since they don't know, they deny it all.
That's right. That may have been exactly what happened. I don't, until I get there.
That's probably the position they're in.
I will tell
We're
you.
kind of in the same position now. We don't know. I'm not saying that you're telling us, giving us wrong information, but we don't know that, you know. We don't have the capability of making that determination. We're listening to you. You're an agent of the company of, getting the tax exemption, but we need technical advice that is our agent giving us that information.
Well, what I'm about to suggest doesn't address the point that you specifically just made, which was the county having their own agent. But again, if it's a matter of going to some cell sites and seeing what's there, we have cell site technicians that can explain. I'm a tax guy, right? I know probably more about this than most of the people in the room.
We can
because-
see what's there, what our lack of knowledge is, I
Well,
think, is
was
Mr.
it
Ladner's
actually-
trying to say.
and that-
It is it
but that's the
related
point.
to the broadband.
And that's-
I mean, I can see the two orange boxes.
And that's the point. Our cell site technicians can explain, probably way more technically than anybody in the room ever wants to hear, but they can explain why that antenna is necessary to complete a broadband connection. We can also provide, now, and some people might say, well, it's very self-serving of the company to provide their own resource to make that argument, but we can also provide some outside experts who aren't AT&T employees, who are technical experts in this subject matter, who could do the same thing.
Well, Paul, are y'all prepared to do that? I mean, to listen to these, to go and look and have people explain this to you as far as the antenna is concerned, so that
We can make an
I
appointment.
think we can make a educated decision on this.
There's one school of thought that feels like the whole broadband exemption was brought about for internet access to schools or underserved communities and things like that, to offset the cost of the underground assets providing broadband. Through the years, it's now turned into over-the-air cell phone exemption. So there's a disconnect between what we feel like the law was originally passed for
Yeah.
and what it's morphed into with the newest technology.
And I agree with what Jasper County was looking at.
That's- yeah.
What I would suggest, of course, you're gonna take an advisement anyway, and let me look at that litigation and see what it's about.
I agree.
What Robert just said makes a lot of sense, because originally this statute was passed to encourage development in rural areas for broadband and to give them incentive to where there wasn't enough
To do.
people. But then it has progressed to where broadband's pretty much everywhere. And that's a legislative thing, that they have to change the legislative statute.
That's all, yeah.
Unfortunately, but,
The only response I would make to that comment is, and I don't disagree, I mean, that's the reason why states offer incentives, right? And I would say that over the 20 years that statute has been in place, that broadband has increased greatly in the state of Mississippi. It may not be every school, it may not be every inner city neighborhood, and that's the reason why the federal government is still offering billions of dollars nationwide to companies to come in there to try to get that last mile to the people who are underserved.
We really need some updated legislation to deal with this.
Does AT&T get any of this federal money for broadband?
We have taken some federal dollars. We don't always take federal dollars where they're available, because they're available pretty much across the country. What we try to do is we try to look at where it makes good fiscal sense for our company to want to take that incentive from the federal government to go into those areas, because those dollars are tied to specific areas that you have to go into.
Does it differentiate between over-the-air and underground service?
No, sir, there's no distinction in any of that. It's all broadband service is considered one.
So a school could be served just as well over the air as it could underground?
Absolutely, it could be. Now, it might require additional equipment, certain things to make that happen, but yes, it could. That was one of the issues that Jasper County, through their expert, tried to make, is they tried to say that, these companies aren't offering fixed wireless service. Well, there's nothing in the statute that requires fixed wireless service. There's nothing in the FCC's guidelines that says, oh, well, this is broadband this way, this is broadband. It's all considered to be part of broadband. And what fixed wireless is, so, if I'm driving down the road and I'm on my phone and I'm getting MapQuest to lead me where I'm going, that's broadband access, and I'm getting data from the cell site to my phone. If you had it at your residence and you lived way out in the rural part of the county, you might have to have some additional equipment on your home that would almost be like another antenna or small cell site, if you will, that's communicating with the closest cell site, which might be miles away, right? But it receives that signal. It's called fixed wireless because there's a piece of equipment that's mounted on the house that then takes that signal down into the house, okay? But again, there's nothing in the statute that says that you have to be providing fixed wireless broadband.
Now, the problem with the statute is it was written when we didn't have broadband. It was there to encourage broadband. So all these antennas were being taxed because they had broadband. And suddenly, now they are carrying broadband, it's converted to broadband. That's essentially what we're talking about. You have an antenna that you showed there that used to do nothing more than carry voice, that's now, looks the same, essentially, but it does an entirely different thing.
I may be
Carry broadband.
completely wrong when I make this statement, because again, I'm a tax guy and not a, an engineer. But I doubt in 2002 and 2003, when that statute was being discussed and when it was enacted by the legislature, that anybody conceived that broadband was gonna be, technologically advanced to the point where you could get so much of it on your wireless device.
Moving quicker than legislation, I can guarantee you that.
My dad's phone in his car took up the entire trunk the first time I ever saw it. He had to go to the operator book took up the whole trunk, had 4 antennas on the back.
And look, that's part of the deal, and the retirements issue, which I wanna make clear that we're not saying that it's not an issue. I'm just choosing not to bring it up here at today's hearing, okay?
Let me ask you something, is anything under oath that AT&T is providing this board today that says that what they're asking the exemption on is actually broadband? Have y'all produced anything that, expert-wise, that says this is broadband?
In advance of the hearing, no, sir.
Yes. Well, I mean, the board needs something, because they're not.
Can I make a-
Unless we're
Well,
going
we can certainly provide such information.
I think we should probably take under advisement,
Yes.
and let's look at this Jasper County,
Yes.
because a lot of this may be discoverable or be discovered during that
I
trial.
would be happy to do that. I think that's.
So I'll make that
I do
motion.
think that they're here asserting that this is broadband, so 2 things. They do something that's under oath from AT&T that the board can rely on, or have somebody else look at to question as to what exactly you're requesting the exemption on now that's not exempt. In other words, you're giving us a printout of everything that's, you think is exempt, but you're including in there things that we agree are exempt. So the board can't compare the two to see exactly how much you're
Are we
talking
dealing
about.
with a time issue here? I mean,
You've got to be.
Yeah, there's a time issue.
there is a time issue, so we can take it under advisement, but, when do we have to, he had, his company, we have to make a decision.
I think the rule has to be
determine
turned
what
over
his
by
taxes are,
The rule has to be turned over by September 1st.
by September the 1st. Okay?
It shouldn't take long to get something that's under
We-
oath right now.
we could provide
Anything
some
under
type
oath
of-
as to what is and what isn't.
Well, we had a little problem with the previous one about the oath.
You didn't want to take an oath?
No, he did, but,
No, he didn't want to provide proof that he
he
removed
didn't want to provide proof.
Well, if he doesn't provide proof, then the board can deny it, and he cannot appeal. So if they don't provide what the board requests.
Well, that's
when
I can, if I understand you correctly, and I'm sorry to interrupt everybody I'm interrupting,
That's all right.
but if I understand you correctly, you'd like to have something under oath that more directly addresses the assets that are subject to this particular issue.
And that AT&T
We already
asserts
got
is
that.
subject to the broadband exemption. So-
Absolutely.
So the board's not, you've said 4 or 5 times you're the tax man, I don't disbelieve you at all, but you're the tax man.
But I don't think
AT
saying something under oath, like we just got through telling this guy at T-Mobile, opposite of that. I think we need some hardcore proof that this equipment is strictly needed for
Yeah.
broadband.
Well,
And an oath, with all due respect,
the affidavit should provide the information that what she's asking for, that it is broadband, and why it's broadband.
go get that expert.
What we can do.
If I'd have been here before, I would have told that man that too.
That's not,
But that's not,
that's not exactly what the man said.
Okay.
no, that was,
Well,
but he did bring it up.
I'm always a little reluctant to offer
It
more
wasn't a
than
matter of
what is requested.
technicality that we were.
But in addition to providing you the sort of reconciliation of the amount that's under
Right.
issue and the affidavit,
Yeah.
To put something under oath. We can also look to provide some information or documentation from an outside expert, as opposed to an AT&T person.
I mean,
So-
you've presented stuff here for the board to rely on, but it's just like a little brochure that tells you how the thing works and why it's broadband, but that's not AT&T providing anything that is evidentiary of value to the board. That's just a brochure.
It's why they should be exempt
Yes.
and how it works.
Yes.
We don't have anything technical
Right.
here
And it may
that
be,
says that's connected to broadband.
it's not just getting up here and saying it. I don't mean to be
Yeah,
little
that's
at
what
what
I'm-
you've said
No,
in a way. I'm
I
just saying
completely
that
get
it
it.
gives the board at least something to decide, okay, let's have an expert look at this affidavit and give us an opinion as to what they think about it. It sounds to me like a legislative problem.
It
That's what
does,
I'm
but
saying.
for right
The
now.
legislation hadn't kept up with the technology. That's obvious, and see, all these issues are coming up.
Maybe we can get some judge to look at it.
But so right now, you've assessed this equipment.
Just get the
I
right.
think
got
that's
till
what they did. They
Something
said-
September
get more
1st, and
judges
he
involved.
appealed and
I think that's
said.
what Jack.
No.
She'll recuse herself now that I said that.
We have to.
You need something by September 1st.
Yeah. Forward by September.
Let's just take it under
So-
advisement.
That's what I
Let's
said,
do
but
it.
she's-
Yeah.
I made a motion. to
Oh,
take
you
it
did
under
second?
advisement.
All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by no, motion carries. We take it under advisement.
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you
Sullivan.
all for your time and your patience.
I guarantee you, that's what that's.
Well, just next time somebody says, take my word for it, tell them to raise your right hand. Y'all can swear them in.
But they have the right to ask for more evidence.
We wanted more concrete
You have a right
information,
to
just
ask.
like we've asked this.
He was claiming
But
that
this one's
reference
agreed
to
to
whether
give to
the-
us.
what
Then
those
we got
things
some.
were up on the pole or not, but we decided.
We're back to
actually
number
all of
4.
it.
Well, that's, we submitted it under oath, that's all.
And we supposed to
You don't
take
need to
it.
ask for more
And we
information.
supposed to take it.
Not correct.
We back to
That's
number
what we
4.
told you.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you. We're about an hour behind.
All right, we're moving back to number 4. This is, I don't think I need to read all of them off again. Table 1.
Kyle Nelson. We're an hour behind.
Some of these budget things.
Go ahead.
You know,
Because it's gonna be at least an hour.
We'll see you when we see you.
Yeah, you'll be back. Thank you for that.
Are they on?
They are ready. I have not turned on the
Turn them on.
video.
Let's get them going.
Let's get going.
I don't have a name for them.
Kyle, sir, can you hear us?
Okay.
Cal.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Yes, Cal, the board of supervisors at this time is prepared to take your protests in reference to your taxes. So, go for it.
Is he gonna play with
Can you hear us?
Did you hear us, Cal?
Yes, it was a little muffled. What'd you say?
I'm sorry. The board is prepared to hear your protests, so you're up front now.
All right. All right. Well, then I'll get started. I didn't know how formal this was or anything, and obviously this is the first time I've ever been before the Board of Supervisors of Mississippi, and the states vary how they handle things. So I appreciate you all taking the time. I know you're running a little bit behind schedule, and so I'll try to make this as quick as I can in order to hopefully catch you guys up, maybe let you eat some lunch even too. So I'm bringing an appeal forward for Cable One, and they are a broadband communication company with multiple assets within the state of Mississippi. Obviously, Harrison County being a significant portion of those assets. They provide internet service in varying methods, whether that's coaxial overhead cable, coax underground cable, or fiber. They also have some older equipment too that works along with that. So it's not just the distributable assets. It is head-end equipment, which is, where you see the little box on the side of the road. They've got drop locations, which are effectively customer sites. So when you've got internet at your house, you got a little box out front. So it converts it off of the main line and runs it to your house or to your office or wherever. So Cable One owns all of that equipment. So the purpose for this appeal is informational for me, but also wanted to bring up a couple of concerns that we have. So we've worked with Ms. Parker in the assessor's office each of the last 2 years, working to implement and ensure that the broadband exemption, which is allowed by Mississippi Code 57877, is in place and is correct. And in our estimation, there are a couple things that are not being marked as exempt that should be related to this broadband equipment. So the statute specifically reads, any equipment being used for or in connection with the transmission of information at a rate prior to taking into account effects of degradation that is not less than 384 kilobits per second in one direction. Then it goes on to list some specific equipment. And because Cable One's a broadband provider, their speeds are obviously significantly faster than that, so that's not an issue. So we've filed the returns in the last 2 years with the exempt property marked after some amended return processes. And we've provided that, and there's been somewhat of a disagreement as to the interpretation of that statute.
I hate to interrupt you, but could you give us your specific objections, what the tax assessors have denied? Could you be more specific so we can deal with that? And when you say, and I might point out, when you say connections, you also mention any connections to broadband. I guess if we take that as an argument, the telephones in their office is somehow connected to broadband. I'm sure they use the telephone to communicate in reference to something, so that in effect would be arguably broadband. And I know that's been a little, I'm being a little over example there, but give us a specific, if you would, please, what the assessor is denying you that you feel is really connected, directly connected to broadband under the statute.
Gotcha. So you actually, you were very close to one of our specific examples. One of the concerns that we have is computers were not denoted as broadband equipment. And the statute reads, like I said, for purposes of this section, equipment used in the deployment of broadband technologies means any equipment capable of being used for or in connection with the transmission of information, and it goes on. So in our estimation, computers would be included in that because computers are necessary to operate that system. To take it one level beyond that, one of the conversations that I had with the assessor was the idea that computers would not qualify. There was also an asset class that was called computer computer integrated machinery and equipment. And within that class, there were some additional assets such as switches, routers, modems, things that multiplexers that all actually worked to transmit the internet connection in its simplest form. So I would say the computers are one thing. You mentioned telephones. You could make the argument telephones. I would say making the argument that computers should be included would be a more direct comparison. That actually is one of the issues that we have. And I did want to note that our concern goes back not just to this tax year, but under the statute 2735-143, we are requesting an adjustment be made to the previous tax year as well, which states that adjustments can be made prior to the last Monday in August next, which according to some legal representation means by the last Monday of this August for last year. And it includes the application of exemptions. So when it's not a valuation discussion, it can be open. So I know that's a whole lot to dump kind of throw a bunch of words at you, but any questions you may have at this point, please.
Are those same, Cal, are those same computers used for other type of communication?
So,
For example,
our
other
understanding-
type of emails and communications that's not directly related to broadband?
they would be owned by the company and they would be used for company purposes. And the company's only purpose is to transmit broadband to customers. So using that connection.
Cable One, its only purpose is broadband?
Cable One's purpose is providing internet service, yes.
Not the only thing though, is it? I mean, I'm seriously asking a question. Cable One provides other types of services to the customers they serve, don't they?
I know that in some states they do. I know South Carolina, for example, they just bought an entity that is purely a cable television company. But in Mississippi, my understanding is that it is only used for internet provider, as an internet provider. But I could be incorrect there.
Well,
We have TV,
I'm sorry.
television.
Yeah. I think-
And I have
Well, the statute says that it means any equipment capable of being used for, in connection with the transmission of information at a rate, I'm not gonna go through the rate again, including but not limited to asynchronous, let's say that transfer mode switches, digital subscriber line access, multiplexers, routers, servers, multiplexers, fiber optics, and related equipment. I'm not sure computers fall within that, but I'm not an expert either.
I think we're all in that position.
I think we all feel like the computers have multiple uses.
Yeah.
Right.
So you can't,
That's just
That's
how
why I
they
asked
send
the
it to us. They classify it as computers. But they go more specific as, routers and servers and stuff like that.
what you need to operate the computer.
But how much is Cable One saying they should be exempt on, computer-wise?
So I believe that the only thing that we removed from our filing and deemed that should be taxable was things like furniture and fixtures. We're not gonna say that a chair or a desk is integral to the broadband. I mean, we're not grasping for everything, but I would say that most of the assets that we're putting forth, we would deem as exempt. I can tell you that in '23, we filed a taxable assessed value of $3.5 million, and the current assessed value, which does remove some things, does exempt some assets, is $5.6 million. So there's about a $2 million assessed value difference between what Cable One reports and what the current assessment is.
So the computer desk and chair would be exempt, but not the computer.
So I'm looking currently at, what we reported versus what we reported as taxable, versus what we reported as exempt. And the things that we reported exempt were things like, cable distribution equipment, obviously, the cables themselves, any fiber, conduits, pipes. But then there's a lot of I think the main issue that we have does come down to the computers. That's a significant portion of the disagreement. And that computer integrated machinery and equipment, that's part of it as well.
I'm prepared to deny. I think we're going to deny. I'm prepared to deny. I mean, this is getting out of hand.
We'll find
We've got
out.
these huge companies that
Yeah.
are gonna nickel and dime the taxpayers in Harrison County. It's ridiculous.
Cal,
I'll make
any
a
other
motion.
information that you want to present to us before we take it under consideration?
I'm retired and I can say what I want.
I don't think there's anything additionally at this point. Like I said, I appreciate the time that you all have given me, and we want to work with the county, because obviously Cable One has been there for a while and they want to continue to be there, and everything's in the ground, so they're not going anywhere. But we just want to make sure that the exemption that's statutorily available was being applied accurately. And like I said, part of this is informational for me. And if I'm misunderstanding the statute, then I'm happy to hear that and go back to the client with it and say, you know, this is what you think it says, this is what it actually says. So.
All right, thanks, sir. Chair and, do
I'll
I
make
entertain a
a,
motion in reference to the
I'll
protest?
make a motion to deny the appeal.
Do I hear a second? Second, any further discussion? All in favor, signify by aye. Those opposed by no, motion carries. Thank you, Cal.
Thank y'all.
Man,
Can I
I
ask
So
know.
I
Paula,
need,
he said something that kind of, I wasn't sure about, I didn't want to ask is he saying that they're not reporting the things that they think are exempt?
correct, that's what they all
AT&T,
said.
all of them.
Y'all give me-
If they feel it's not taxable, they do not report.
So technically,
Now, as far as the antenna goes, let's say 20 years ago, you had a bracket holding a transmission on your car. It has now been replaced with, with a 3-speed, the 12-speed transmission. The same bracket holds a different transmission on it.
so therefore
It's two
now,
different, it's still the same bracket. If you put your television antenna on the top of that one, you get the best reception you've had in your life. It's just a tower.
Problem is the
It could
statute.
be a water tower, it could be actual antenna tower. It's just a matter of what is holding up the
The
equipment.
problem is the statute is very broad.
It's too broad, and that's the problem. They've
They
taken
realize that.
They've taken that to
yeah, I
the.
think that's probably where Jasper County's coming from. They said, we're not gonna sit here and mess with this technical, this, and this, we're just gonna deny them all, and we'll
look at that.
we'll separate it at another time. I really believe that.
Cable One's hurt now, Coast Connect has taken over some of their. And
Pardon?
they have, Coast Connect is now taking over some Cable Ones, maybe they're hurting now, they're trying to get more money.
And Cable One, they have telephones and cable TV in this county, in the state.
I agree that, I think that one was an easier one as far as the computer, I think that argument's a little, but the tower, the way he's describing it, I think we need to, that's a little more difficult. All right, let's see, where are we now?
So now we're on
Is that
the
it for the
budget.
tax protest?
Yes, sir.
Thank y'all.
Y'all.
Thank you.
Paula, is there any help from the Department of Revenue on this? Any
No.
guidelines from the Department of Revenue?
They won't back us.
Okay.
What do you have over here now?
You know, tomorrow.
We have budget hearings now.
We also have here something, number,
That's, I don't know
to
why.
recognize, Heidi Noel.
Well,
It just because if she was moved from the meeting, she wanted to be on a regular meeting, and I think we were told that she would be put
she's
on
coming out
the,
1:15, well, on our schedule.
she would be on your schedule, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just right now, just go by what Pam has given you.
So, that's,
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, just, yeah,
this is something else.
just go by.
All right, it's on our agenda. now.
Yes, we do
Yeah.
have that one.
All right, thank you.
so we are on Ashley Comstock.
Pam,
Yeah, you got it on.
okay, get going.
Turn it on.
I don't want to turn it on.
Yes. Turn it on. Is it on?
Yes, it is, everything is good, yeah.
Hello, Ms.
Hi, John, can you hear us?
Hey, yeah, y'all are coming through great. I can't believe a budget hearing got behind schedule. That's never happened before. It must have been some good questions being asked.
A lot of questions, very few answers.
Tax hearings.
I sit on the board of Mississippi Broadband Association, so if y'all have any questions or need some help, let me know.
Well, we got a question.
Yeah.
Does that antenna qualify for a tax exemption?
I'll have to ask the executive director.
Right.
You'll know. They'll know, I'm just a vote.
Be right backwards.
If you're on the Broadband Association, I know the answer.
Yeah, it depends on which.
Do you want it
where
to?
she's coming from.
Do you want it to? Okay, so I've been meeting individually kind of a little bit with a few of you, Ms. Powers for sure. She's been sending me some of the directors of the departments.
Ash, I'm sorry, we don't have a quorum,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Everybody walked out on me.
Everybody walked out, we don't have a quorum.
So I already have a list of some things, but we'll just go over here.
And one, still waiting for another.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. Okay, we back. Ashley, continue.
So we have a lot of grants coming up right now that their deadlines are fast approaching, and we need to, there's a million things out there. There's an infrastructure grant for waste stormwater preparedness. There's all kinds of infrastructure projects. We just need to know from you all what path you want us to go in, what areas you want us to be looking at, what are your specific needs.
There's a soil and water. Help me remember, y'all, what was it the soil and water guys needed?
Soil and water conservation.
Yeah,
If
what
you
about-
had over 4 inches of rain in an event, you would qualify for certain
There's some kind of
erosion
big-
control grants
Okay.
for drainage purposes.
And there was something else.
That's the only one I remember.
There was something
Speaking
else.
of
Tim Ray didn't talk about one yesterday?
No,
Okay, well, I remember soil and water, I wrote it down.
yeah.
Okay, there's this one, this SEED, State Economic and Infrastructure Development Grant Program. That's for workforce development and infrastructure type things. Harrison County was specifically named in this one. And there's like $20 million available, but the ceiling on it is $500,000 that you would be eligible for.
And what's that for?
What's that for?
So this is the, to promote and encourage economic development in parts of Mississippi, invest projects that support basic infrastructure, business development, natural resource preservation, and workforce development. So
Would
there's
that-
a
would
lot of
that
areas you can
include
do.
an expert on broadband?
That would
I
be
mean, I'm
infrastructure.
serious.
I think there is some technology in here.
Cause that might
Yes,
hire somebody.
it does, because it says tackling basic public infrastructure, telecommunications, and transportation.
There's
We might
our,
need to go for that.
there's
hire
our
out
expert we're
technical
looking for.
person.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. And then also,
But the max you can get is a $500,000.
But that'd be all, that, we'll have to pay somebody very well.
also, right now we have $2 billion in the broadband fund that we got federally that will help for the underserved areas. And we have some. I pulled up the map for Harrison County, and there are a lot of specks of underserved. We just need people in those areas running these tests to feed the data to the BEAM office.
So they could do that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we can,
Does the Mississippi Broadband Association provide any services like that?
no.
Well, they should.
But I will make the recommendation.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Now, Quinn Jordan is the executive director, and he knows everything in and out of this. He was appointed by Sally Doty, who runs the BEAM office, and she's over all of this.
So he wouldn't be available for us to hire, assuming that we did, because obviously we need somebody.
He wouldn't, but he can tell you who to.
But he could.
Jasper County has an expert, so I'm gonna get that and send it to you and see what they
But I'm
say.
curious, and if this grant that you're talking about, that would pay the salary. of
Yeah.
everybody.
Pay that.
It'd pay more than salary.
I would imagine, yeah, I would imagine that the Broadband Association is gonna be supportive of the exemption, would be my guess.
Mm-hmm.
You would think so.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
think they're gonna-
Our Senator Joel Carter's chairman of energy, so if we have something we wanted to look
Change.
at,
'Cause
now's
we
the
need
time
that
to start.
updated.
Yeah, it needs to be updated, for sure. So this is something we need to bring to their attention, because they probably don't even know it, So we've made notes of that. John Morgan has represented the Hinds County Board of Supervisors, and he has offered just some suggestions of some things that they've done in the past, and some of their legislation that they've passed that you all can look at. And John Morgan, if you want to talk to anything specific.
Yeah, thanks, Ashley. I'll just kind of briefly cover, I know you guys are in a hurry and I'm probably standing between you and lunch. So I did just want to provide a brief update on kind of what we're looking at going into the 2024 legislative session forecast. I'm trying to share my slides and it's saying host disabled participant screen sharing. I can email these if I need to. It's no big deal.
Do y'all have the printout?
Yes, they do.
They have the printout.
Oh, okay. I'm on page 4 if you want to follow along there. It's the 2024 session forecast. So we very much, one of the things we always like to look at as we're thinking about projects and thinking about, earmark request is, what will the total bond pool look like? And the great news is the state's been in such great fiscal shape for the past 35 years that we've actually gotten away from using the credit card and we're actually just writing checks for capital expense projects. So I had a good call last night with Chairman Trey Lamar, who chairs the House Ways and Means Committee. He told me kind of a good rule of thumb would probably be around the $400 million range statewide for capital expense projects. Probably somewhere in the 124, 126 for GCRF, what they're looking like. He also reminded me that they will be doing, one of the things that has become kind of a commonplace in the past few years is on our MDOT directed projects list. So that allows us to put some funding into some, MDOT roads within the county. And we go in there and earmark those just like we would a member directed project. There's also some COVID balances left out there. I'm sure y'all have applied for the various fundings through MDOT and NDQ up to this point. Those have been very successful programs, particularly with the 1-to-1 match on a lot of critical infrastructure. And then just thinking through what the county needs in 2024, we always, our greatest hurdle has been in Hinds County, as it will be in Harrison County, is you've got 15 different legislators and all of them have a different opinion on what's most important for their district, but it's our job to provide that vision on, what can be most transformative at the county level. So getting our community partners engaged and other allies, you guys have a lot of great political leaders and community leaders in Harrison County. We want to tap into that collective political goodwill as we go up there and advocate for various projects. Another trend we've really seen with our clients, we represent about 48 total clients as a firm, probably a dozen of those are in some type of public sector, quasi-public sector space, is huge appetite to fund joint funded projects. So, if we took a project that was 100% state funded at $4 million and we took a $12 million project that we were asking for $4 million from the state, but we had $4 million from the feds and $4 million in grant funding, I would probably say it has a twice as likely chance of receiving state funding. So as y'all think through, hey, what projects do we have that we feel like we can get across the finish line with state funding versus the state being first dollars into a new project or deal. And then impact to the community, that's always something that we always joke it's a lot easier to sell $1 million splash pad than $1 million ditch drainage project because the constituents see it, they play in it. But we all know as a board of supervisors, sometimes it is those not fun, not always sexy projects that are needed, right? That's the role of board of supervisors. So we always like to talk about community impact. Any questions on that before I get to some just kind of comments on what we're seeing from federal advocacy? Hearing none, I will press. So I'm sure as most of you now know, and we talked about today 3 or 4 months ago when we came down and presented, is that what we traditionally knew as earmarks, which have been so important in Mississippi, particularly the Gulf Coast over the years, went away for about 7 or 8 years, and then in 2020, they came back. They don't call them earmarks anymore, they call them member-directed projects. You'll hear that a lot. And it's a little bit different, unlike the traditional earmarks that used to go in the big appropriation bills. These things are tucked more within federal agency budgets. It is kind of how they're being done these days. But I just wanted to emphasize to you all, and it's something that Ashley and I will facilitate, but it is so important that we make that date, 1 day, 2 day trip up to Capitol Hill to meet with Senator Wicker, to meet with Senator Hyde-Smith, to meet with their staff. Is just so vital. I did some quick kind of cocktail napkin math on our firm, and we did not, of our 3 clients that we had that did not go up to the Hill, we went 0 for 3 on our money ask. And then of our clients who went up there and did a good job of following up with staff and members, we were successful on 6 of 8 of those projects. So I think it would be malpractice if I didn't share that data with you and tell you that we need at some point, we don't have to bring the full board, we don't have to bring all your department heads, but we need to get 1 or 2 supervisors and probably your county administrator and make that trip up there to meet with our federal delegation. And it just shows them it's a priority, right, for Harrison County. So that's something that I definitely want to foot stomp. And what we've really seen is we've kind of now been in this federal space on the member directed projects for 3 years now, is the value of going up every year and building those relationships. I can't tell you how many times we're sitting at the office and some 24-year-old staffer from Washington calls Jordan, who's 2 offices down from me, and says, hey man, make sure to tell Harrison County, Hinds County, City of Oxford about this great new grant opportunity. It's $2 billion through the Department of the Interior. And they would not even think about us if we would not have taken the time to build those relationships. So anyways, 2 or 3 focused projects is good. You don't want to go up asking for just one, kind of putting all your eggs in one basket, but you definitely don't want to go up asking for a laundry list of various projects. So anyways, that's my spiel. Any questions on kind of federal advocacy? Any questions on kind of temperature up there?
Any questions? No, sir.
Awesome. Well, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ms. Ashley, got any more?
So y'all let me know what you want to go after, what you want to do. Some of the deadlines are now, some are September, some are October. So we can do whatever you want.
Can you send us a list of what you?
I sure will. I'll put them all together.
Deadlines.
Do y'all have a watershed study?
A what?
Watershed?
Study?
Study.
I'm sure we do. We've had about a meeting. I was just trying to find it.
We can get another one that's free. Why not?
Right, okay.
Updated.
Just for.
We do, we might have to update.
Okay. I just
The
need-
watershed stuff would be related to,
Stormwater.
water,
Yeah.
salt conservation.
Mhm.
What's that, John?
At Soil and Water, Crochet. This is last name.
Yeah,
Crochet.
Greg Crochet.
Greg is the one.
Greg.
That's still, that's,
Soil and Water
Soil and Water.
Conservation.
Soil and water conservation.
Okay,
Pam's got his contact info, and I do too, somewhere.
okay.
It's not with me.
Basically, that grant, you have to get certain weather conditions to qualify.
Yeah.
Mhm. And then if there's any legislation, we need to look. I know the district attorney reached out to me at church on Sunday and said, you know, there's some statutes he would like to get updated and things of that nature, so if there's anything y'all want, especially like with this energy stuff or telecommunications, anything like that, we need
That
to
would
be
be
talking about it because it's quickly approaching.
We need to update that
Yeah.
legislation.
Kyle Brown in the Beam office told me that he would think that they pay property tax unless it's on tax exempt property for those
Well,
antennas.
see, that's the problem. What they're saying is tax exempt is not, we don't necessarily agree with. So.
Yeah, I told him to get with their in-house lawyers and let me know. So I'll let y'all know.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Just so the board knows, I was able to get into the Jasper County file and AT&T filed the appeal. They filed a motion for summary judgment. Jasper County has not responded to it yet. It's set for hearing on October the 14th, I think. So.
There's a reason why they just denied it.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know, we won't know Jasper County's position on it. I'm downloading the brief. Yeah. Just a couple of AT&T. So we'll
Okay, let's,
Can we go ahead and do, the judge?
Intervention court.
intervention court?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, we're just a little into the afternoon.
Sorry.
I'm one of your circuit judges, Judge Mueller, and I'm also the intervention court judge. And this is Antoine Taylor. He is our coordinator who runs all the day-to-day of intervention court. This is my first time to come to one of the budget hearings for it. Mr. Taylor has handled them in the past because they've been when I've been in a court session. So I appreciate the opportunity to come and see y'all and talk to you about our budget and the program. You'll be happy to know we're not anticipating asking for any money from you. Generally, intervention court is self-sufficient, and we get funding from the Administrative Office of Courts from the state. This year we got an increase of $40,000 from them because the size of our program has grown. So we'll get $180,000 from the state this year. Last year we got $140,000. The other money that we spend comes from participant fees that we collect from the people who are in the program. And the program has been growing at a pretty steady clip. When I took over in May of 2021, we had about 91 participants. It was COVID and a lot of reasons why the numbers went down. But we worked hard to kind of bring those numbers back up because a county of our size should have a bigger intervention court program. And now we're at 139?
139, yes, sir.
That's right. So we've been steadily growing that. We have about the same size staff we've had then. We have 5 people in the office, and that's of course the main part of our budget is salaries. But we do appreciate all of the support that we get from the county by having offices in the courthouse. And we really couldn't get all of our reports that we have to submit to the state to secure that funding if Ms. Bell didn't help us get our financial reports every month. So we appreciate her and the help that we get from Ms. Ulrich as well.
Can you tell them how much we pay, the fee for the participants? How much is their monthly?
They pay $50 a month right now, but we're going through, we do recertification with the state every 2 years, and we're in a recertification year right now. So we're going through and analyzing what that fee structure really should look like going forward, because there was a time when the monthly fee for participants was $100 a month. And that was probably too much. And so the funds kind of built up and got to be a lot. And it didn't seem right, I think, to the judge at the time that we continue to take in that much money when it wasn't costing near that to do that. So she reduced it to $50. And now we've been cutting into that money, and that's okay, but we are at the point where we need to level that off. So we're trying to look at the math and see what we can do to level that off. And so it's gonna go up from $50 a month. Right now, we're less than MDOC. They charge $55 a month, and they see their people one time a month. We see our people multiple times a week, and we do drug testing every week, multiple times a week.
And how long is the program? 2 years?
Well, you can finish in 21 months, and I think we'll have, we had our first graduate that did it in 21 months this past May, and we'll have a couple more that will graduate in 21 months in November. You have to be perfect to graduate in 21 months. You can't have any violations whatsoever to do that, but it can take up to 5 years. So it depends, if somebody needs to go to treatment for a long term, sometimes people might have a revocation that slows them down.
After they graduate, do you keep up, is there any recidivism and how much?
After they graduate, it's really hard for us to track because they're not under our supervision. And so I might see them or hear about it down the road, but it's not something
Did you
that...
hear about it much? I mean, is it...
We've had one that I know of since then, and she actually came into the office and basically asked for help.
It's actually a very successful program.
It is, that's why I was...
It is a very successful program. We've had 3 healthy babies born this year. We have a couple more that are probably on the way. We have participants who have gained their children back, reunited their families. They're required to either have a job or go to school. So if you don't have your GED and you didn't graduate from high school, then if you graduate from high school, you're fine, but if you don't have your GED and you didn't graduate from high school, you have to get your GED. You have to be employed or be in school or learning a trade or something like that while you're in the program. And you're required to pay off all your fines and fees that you owe to the county to graduate as well.
The reason that I ask you that.
Sure.
is, I think the success of the program has a lot to do with paying attention to people. They're being paid attention to, and that helps, but once that attention is gone, then I'm just curious, do you have people coming, having other problems then? I think that's helpful. As long as you're paying attention to me, I'm fine.
And, there's just really no authority under the law for us to supervise them
Right.
once they
I
finish the
understand that.
program.
I've had several clients go through it. It's really because of the length of the program, it's generally 3 years.
Right. Most people, I would say, average 3 years.
It's like getting them on track then.
As long as you've got them for 3 years, you're breaking that cycle, really, is what you're trying to do.
Exactly.
And it's been a very successful program. I've had 3 or 4 clients go through it.
It's very
Some of them
intense.
didn't want to at first, but at the end of it, they got benefit of it, and learned about,
We have a few who went in kind of kicking and screaming and didn't think there was any way they could possibly comply with the
they're
requirements of it.
complaining
And
about it.
a
Which
couple
is
of
good.
people
You
were
want them to
perfect.
complain. It shouldn't
Yeah.
be easy, but it's the structure that I think helps more than anything for that long period of
That's kind
time.
of what I'm talking about.
Right.
If you can break the cycle of their quote-unquote friends.
You've got to change, so what we harp on all the time, you have to change your people, places, and things. If you don't, you will be doing the same things you were doing with those people at those places with those things.
Right.
And you have to change that, and it does take time to do that for most people, and it takes a lot of supervision. But it is very rewarding, I would say, as a circuit judge on the criminal side. You don't see a whole lot of things that are uplifting most of the time. Most of the time it's a trial, it's a sentencing, it's a guilty plea, something like that. And that's the place where I see redemption in people. I see families reunited. You just see people really change their life. And so I think it's a great program. I believe in it. We appreciate the support that y'all give us. But like I said, we don't plan to ask for any money, and we plan to stay the way we are, and don't have a future plan to ask you guys to give us any money either. But we do appreciate you all letting us have offices here and the help that we get with our reports and things like that.
Thank you.
I have a family intervention court using Chantry to probably solve some problems down there.
There is one at youth court. Judge Dickinson has one at the youth court. It's very small just because of that set up at the structure there. I think he usually has 3 or 4 families maybe in it at a time, whereas we have, 100, over 100. But just it's a different animal kind of than we are.
And the board has approved a 7% cost of living increase for
Right.
all employees.
And I did hear that, and that is something that I will want to let carry over, because our employees are it's kind of interesting, because they're quasi-county employees and state employees, so they get, they're governed by AOC and their salaries, so I have salary caps that I can't hit on top of, or AOC will stop funding us. We're well below what those are, though, with all of our salaries, so the 7% raise. Yeah, the 7% raise isn't gonna do that, because they just raised all those up, so we're all right, but, we should be in a good spot, so we appreciate that, and I know the employees really appreciate that.
And Judge Mueller's done an excellent job. There's nothing but good things about it from the lawyers, so.
Well, half the time somebody's mad at me, but it's just the way the job goes. But,
Nature of the beast.
But it is. It is.
At least you don't correct papers like Lisa does.
I saw him in physical therapy. I've been writing it to him.
He's doing pretty well. I was over there last night with him. My mother's been in North Carolina on a girls' trip, and so it's the first time she's left him really since his heart surgery last fall. But he's doing fine.
He's
doing
good.
fine. Yeah.
Good man.
He's doing well. So y'all don't have any
Tell
other
him Chad
questions?
Mance is in the ICU in Jackson.
What happened to
Doing
Chad?
better. He had some kind of sepsis or something.
Wow.
He's in the ICU and still in the hospital, been in for a week.
And what
Chad is
what
the
hospital is he in?
annexation lawyer.
Yeah, what hospital's in, do you know?
Baptist.
Baptist, okay.
He was sending emails this morning, so that's a good sign.
From the ICU, that sounds like Chad.
Yeah, from ICU.
Sounds like Chad. Well,
Tell your dad,
I will tell him, he and Chad spent a lot of time, working together for sure, over the years.
Chad was the one that fitted Pastor Christine.
Oh,
A
yeah,
while
yeah,
back.
I don't know. That's right, yeah.
Right.
Check it.
Y'all have any other questions for us?
Any questions?
No.
Well, thank you, Judge.
All right,
Appreciate it.
thank you all, we appreciate it. Y'all have a good day.
Y'all take care.
Coming back.
She's right there.
No.
I'll text her.
All right, human resources. How much human resources we got in this county?
Too much.
Too much. All right, Miss Judy,
How are
so
y'all?
far.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay,
Afternoon now.
well, this is true. Okay, my budget, or HR budget, hasn't changed. It's short and simple. All the figures are pretty much the same as last year. It went up $600 and something, and that was for the state retirement match and Social Security and the workers' comp. Of course, those went up with the COLA increases, which I know y'all changed that now.
You
so
based
that's
yours
gonna be
on
a
5 and we
little
gave
different.
7. So
Right, exactly. So that's gonna have to be, in there.
Adjusted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll change that when we go through.
Take care of that.
Biggie there.
Okay, right now, we have a temporary HR generalist, and I would like to request that we bring her on as a regular full-time employee. I have moved the numbers around in the salaries, so we kept the amounts the same. So what we would do to be able to do that is bring her in as a full-time employee, but at 30 hours. And there's a little bit of fluff in there in case, myself or Diana may be out, then there would be 2 of us in HR at, at the same time.
Can you
Instead
have a
of just-
full-time employee that only works 30 hours?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
do.
that
Yeah,
kicks
30
in
hours.
full
It's
time.
30 hours
30
is
hours is
full-time.
full-time.
They're prorated, their leave time's prorated.
But they got all the benefits of a full-time employee.
Yeah, 30 hours is considered full-time. So I just wanna let y'all know that, she's done a great job at reorganizing our HR files. She stays on top of all the filing that we do. We have tons of paperwork, because as you know, we have to have documentation to back up everything we do in the system. She's already learned how to enter new hires into E-Verify. She's keeping up with the Mississippi State Directory of new hires that that we're required to do. And, Ms. Pam and I had a discussion about moving the reconciliations on the insurance from, taking it off of Jennifer, taking off her plate. And I think that, Barbara would be great for that, because she's had some experience in reconciling, stuff like that where she worked before. And I don't remember.
Is that insurance?
Sorry?
It's what our insurance, what the employees pay into.
Oh, keeping up with
And
their.
making
Yeah, reconciliation. Jennifer makes sure that,
I reconcile it every month, making
Yeah.
sure that the employees that are turned come off, or the ones that are added or put on, or vice versa.
And that was something that we did a few years ago. It was supposed to have been a
Should
temporary
be
basis
HR.
for,
But
it
that-
should have been
you
under,
gonna
it
take that
was,
HR.
it
Good.
was under.
and that's something that Barbara
That
would
she
be
can
able.
do. What's her last
Exactly.
name?
Wallace. She came from the Gulf Coast Mental Health. That's where it was.
Yeah, years ago.
Before they shut down.
Oh, okay.
She was there for 13 years. So, and of course, that would allow me to do more of what I need to do, and I would love to be able to go out and visit the different departments so that they can see HR more visible to them and know that we're here to help them wherever they need help.
And some more training.
Well,
Oh, yeah, definitely more training. We didn't
Training, I
use
can see.
all the training last year, but, I do plan on sending, Diana and Barbara on more training. I think Diana's probably gonna be, taking her SHRM certification next year. So that'll be included in that as well.
She's coming back Monday?
August
Coming back
21st. Yeah, and I did move, from the 919 furniture. Diana got new furniture last year, so that puts all of us pretty well situated as far as furniture goes. So we moved that money to 606. Any questions?
Which is more like chairs or, small items.
Yeah.
Office supplies, yeah. Let's see.
That's it, thank you. You got any more? I mean.
That's it. She got some all but.
Yeah, mine's not very big compared to everybody else.
All right, any further questions?
Matt didn't come back yet.
Okay.
Matt and him should be back.
Thank you.
All right,
Appreciate it.
thank y'all,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Let's take a
Get
slow
started on
break.
some of mine, yes. Y'all wanna
No,
take
let's
a break?
I wanna-
Y'all take a break, cause they're not coming back till, Canopy's
back.
coming at 1:15, and
Matt and them's come back at 12:45,
y'all wanna get you something to
so we
eat.
got about 20 minutes.
Let's go
30
lunch
minutes,
somewhere, we haven't done that in a while.
30 minutes.
We got time.
No, we only got 30 minutes.
45, you got 45.
They said
They can
12:45.
wait.
Oh.
Supposed to be at 1:15, but.
Oh, Matt?
Matt says
Matt, what
Supposed to
time?
be
1:15 is Canopy, but, cause Matt, they made it back from lunch, they went to lunch.
Well, yeah, if we go, what do we need, an hour?
Yeah, probably, you're after the lunch crowd, but you
Yeah,
probably.
we can let the Canopy know, we can call
1:30.
them and tell them
Can we
1:30.
be back by 1:30?
Yeah, tell them 1:30. What about Matt?
We gotta call him.
You wanna go to the Great Southern Club? It's
Tell him.
quick, but it's not as good.
Yeah.
Better than hell, though.
No, it's all right.
How about chimneys? Is that
Chimneys is gonna be
We
longer
can
than
get
that.
something quick.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
good.
we don't have time. We can go to either Salute's quick or Great Southern's quick.
Where?
Great Southern.
Yeah.
Great Southern's quick.
Let's go there.
Dr. Louder, do I have permission to cut the string?
Yes,